Forget my halo. I didn't have time to set up a better lighting.
That's all right. And we are live. Ooh, look at that beautiful little logo there. Oh, baby. I love it.
Why is it not?
I'm going to go pull up the video. Do. So I can have the chat in ready access.
I am attempting to do the same.
And I always like to pop out the chat so I can cover up the video screen so I don't have to look at myself. All right.
Yeah.
Wouldn't
it be nice?
Get the text rolling. We may or may not have people hop on, but that doesn't matter. So I'm ready when you are, brother.
Alrighty. So, yeah, I'm just going to leave it right there because holy crap, this thing's impossible to navigate. Alrighty. So, welcome again, everyone, to the next episode of the Foally of Man. My name is Chris with me here today.
And I'm Robert.
Wait, you're and I'm Robert? You're not just Robert?
You didn't give me any participle to connect us together.
So. Okay. And with me here today,
Robert.
Yeah, see, there you go. That's the correct verbiage.
Welcome to the Foally of Man. The general crux of the show is Chris is a Brony and I am not, and we review My Little Pony / Fallout fan fiction. Starting with the original story, Fallout Equestria, written by K-Cat, and all such derivative stories like we are reading today, Pink Eyes, which is by an author that I don't remember, but I'm sure you do, Chris.
Mime-Zinga.
Mime-Zinga sounds like a Facebook app.
Well, you know, absolute top tier Silicon Valley startup trash.
For those of us joining for the first time who may not know about the story, of course, you can find Fallout Equestria and Pink Eyes on FemFiction.
We also find Pink Eyes in very many places.
Golly, yeah, I don't want to have pink eyes. That would be quite awful. Yes. Yeah, a buddy of mine, his daughter has pink eyes. He showed up to church this morning. Yeah, and he's like, oh, yeah, that's why she's not here. She's got pink eye. And I'm like, oh, somebody didn't wash their hands after they went poo-poo. And he's like, yeah.
Nasty. So hopefully there should be no cutouts or interruptions today. I've power at my apartment's been spotty, so...
Well, nice thing about Hangouts is that if there's any such thing, you can always come back in and it just keeps on rolling. So let's do a quick little catch up. Pink Eyes follows the story of a foal named Puppy Smiles, who is caught in the devastation of the destruction at Canterlot. She's in one of the hamlets of Canterlot, and essentially the pink cloud falls down on her. She's in a special environmental suit that protects her to some extent, and while she's being overcome with this radiation and pink fog, it's administering healing potions and Radaway and just doing that until it runs out. Well, it saves her life, sort of, but it also bonds the suit to her body.
She is now effectively a Canterlot ghoul.
Ghoul, yes, and 200 years go by.
And one of the few Canterlot ghouls that does not go feral, so like most ghouls.
Yeah. Rip in peace.
So she's out looking for her mother, who the suit has seen as Mom, or the Ministry of Morale.
Yeah. Which is interesting. This character is a child, and though being 200 years old, she's locked in the mental development of a child. Yeah. So much so that characters, when encountering her, think she's retarded.
Yeah. I mean, that's a way to do it. I mean, think about it. You take the mindset of a mid-war, pre-war child and put them into a post-apocalypse scenario. They're not going to get along.
Moonblaze is here as well. So hello, Last Place. Hello, Moonblaze. Real quick, though, there's a great line. Oh, really? Oh, it closed it out. Well, anyways, there's a great line. I remember where it was. I did have it pulled up perfectly before it closed the window, where the suit is having to recalibrate the organization spell matrix that helps keep all your items organized. It's a weak spell, but in realizing that she's mentally deficient, it says recalibrating for child or derpy interaction.
Well, it's like it has to reiterate what the hostiles are.
Here we go. Loading instructions. Selecting easy version for foals and derpy.
Let's see. There was another one in here as well when where it finally just said, where it's like you have to go after this. The who? The interacting with self-proclaimed red trotter ponies. Red who? Talking with pretty ponies.
Ah, yeah, the pretty ponies. Speaking of which, so real quickly in this chapter, we get right to it. She's wandering down Route, what is it?
52.
52, yeah, Route 52. I had to pull it up.
Big 52.
Route 52. And comes across two hostile ponies. Not necessarily hostile, but become hostile. Asking lots
More
of questions.
More organized than your average raider, but definitely some ne'er-do-well-ish characters.
We find out they're with the Red Trotter faction, and then once they become very frustrated with Puppy Smiles and basically just kill her on sight with a laser lance.
I think I died.
I still see you.
Die?
You're here.
Okay.
Yeah, you're here.
You cut it completely on my end, so.
Okay, so but they kill her essentially using a laser lance, and she just collapses on the ground. But she's a Canterlot ghoul, and they don't really die, you know.
No.
So we haven't had it explained this way, but similar to Steelhooves from Fallout Equestria, a ghoul. What is it? Not a ghoulish. How's the energy described?
Necrotic.
No, not necrotic. There's another term they use that's like Lovecraftian.
Yeah,
like eldritch, or there's just kind of like this supernatural glow that seems to kind of come back over the body.
Yeah, the description of it, of her dropping like a bag of stones onto the ground.
Right. But when she actually comes to, and the Red Trotters see the pink fog and are like, let's just go.
We're not gonna touch that.
They even realize at closer inspection that the suit seems to be fused to her, so they looked close enough to observe that.
Yeah.
But then when she comes to, she just continues on her merry way. Well, of course, has the conversation interaction with the suit, Mr. Voice, as she likes to call him. But then continues on headed towards the MOM point on her map.
Yep. Which is an interesting location, but right before it, they pass through this actually big barrier.
The Red Trotter checkpoint, essentially.
Yeah. Where they're like, hey, you didn't get a pass from them, right? And she's like, no, I was talking to them, and then they just walked away, I guess. I don't really remember.
Yeah, and then they have a conversation like, so what? Those two are giving away free passes now?
So one of them goes down, is apparently really burly brown unicorn comes down, and he's like, maybe I could just trade with... Okay, here, just have a free pass. We're giving a child's discount today.
Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, and you'll actually notice that as a pretty common thing throughout the story is that nobody is this absolute good or evil kind of aspect. I mean, there is a some of it, but a lot of things that usually are kind of glossed over as absolutes, pretty static points in a story. Mime Thinking actually does break into and start humanizing, equinizing, for their own sake and for the reader's sake.
Gotcha.
And for the story's sake.
Yeah, well, you got to remember, good and evil, it's a very childlike perspective on it. Her innocence is kind of pushed onto these individuals. We only get a couple glimpses of, like, how dangerous these situations really are. But like you said, she's the holy idiot.
Oh, yeah.
The god fool, as it were. So dumb their actions are blessed. But anyways, they're like, God, why would this child be going in that direction? And we find out about, what do they call it? The carnival?
Yeah, carnival.
Mm-hmm. Which I was curious about. But then, I'll be honest, the carnival scene didn't really pay off for me. It seemed to have been setting up something more interesting than what actually happened. What are your thoughts? Uh-oh. We may have lost Chris.
Oh, no. I'm here. Sorry.
Okay.
Just dealing with the fun stuff here.
Sure. So, to recap.
Somebody's playing bumper cars into the power lines, I guess.
Oh, great. So, to recap, I said the carnival scene didn't really pay off for me the way that I expected it to. It kind of was there, it happened, and then there didn't really seem to be much of a payoff to the story.
It is a very short sequence. It's something that, in retrospect, is enjoyable, but at the time of reading, you're like, oh, wow, this is really
I'm not
quick.
saying that it's not enjoyable, but I guess I'm just thinking from the perspective of something K-Cat would have written. There would have been some build-up to going to a location that's scary and it's carnival, and then it's really just one interaction and then done.
Yeah.
It doesn't really move the story along.
Puppy Smiles is never absolutely retarded in the fact that she goes into a memory orb while in the middle of the it's just not. Pip, why the fuck did you do that?
Yeah, no, I know.
Why the fuck did you do that? Oh.
But let's see here. Last place says it feels like a Five Nights at Pinky's. Which for sure, yeah, I could see that. But what I'm wondering is, why was this particular barn marked as a Ministry of Morale location?
Because Pinky's approach to Ministry of Morale was not the same as many of the other ministries, which were kind of based on, solid structural order. It's Pinkie Pie. She's focused on parties, and she's focused on schmoozing with everyone from the top to the bottom. So she's going to make this ministry is going to be an ivory tower, and this ministry is going to be a woodshed, and this ministry building is going to be just an inflatable pool in the back of somebody's yard.
Right. But so like the payoff is that this is a robot that was designed to like be Pinky in her absence.
Yeah.
It's kind of what I interpreted it as. But if this was a location where great research was occurring, or the barn was actually a cover for something more interesting going on underneath, you see what I mean? Like, I've gotten used to the narrative structure of Fallout Equestria, and then I'm expecting there to be a secondary layer of something else going on.
Oh yeah, yeah. And
lurking beneath the surface.
A lot of the fan fictions is that they are not going to be as, I hate saying as well written, because that's so insulting.
No, it's well written thus far. It seemed like a missed opportunity.
Yeah, there's something a little extra in the original story that really is what caused people to drag in. So
yeah.
The last place says theme parks and party with hidden bugs spying on you like Walt Disney.
Anyways, we should actually get into and explain the scene that we see when we get in there. It's surrounded by devastation. We get into this location, this barn, and there is a mechanical pony, essentially wearing, the crude facade of trying to look like a pony. And a table that is set, and a party that looks like it's been going on for 200 years, but poorly, and just skeletons at every place at the table, with one exception. There is one severely emaciated pony that is still alive sitting at the table.
It described that there were like 2 or 3 that were very, very heavily emaciated.
Yeah.
She described as mummy ponies. There's only one that's left alive, though.
Right, that's what I mean. Yeah. And then there's piles of bones in the corners. It's just like everywhere.
And they're pumping nitrous oxide gas into the room. And so.
Yeah. And of course, Puppy's not affected by that at all. She doesn't breathe.
Well, she's got the hazmat suit. She doesn't breathe. I mean, there's a whole bunch going into it. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, so of course it's a party. She's like, well, let me humor this robot. But Puppy's there to find her mom. And in her mind, her mom is at this party. And as she realizes that either her mom isn't here, or that maybe her mom was here and is now dead.
Well, the robot as well said that her mother wasn't there.
Right.
Like, Mr. Voice is so simple a AI construct that it doesn't differentiate between mother and mom, or at least early on it kind of implied that maybe it didn't want to break it to her, and so it's like, okay, we're going to go find MOM. But this one is more complex and understands that she's looking for her mother. And as a caretaker for a children's facility, you're not going to design a robot that would confuse the two. They would definitely be looking for their mother. So.
Right, absolutely. But the emaciated pony begins to whisper to Puppy Smiles, like, ha 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 ha, run away, ha 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 ha, what are you doing? Get out of here, ha 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 ha, while you still can. Because the nitrous oxide, it's obviously not funny, but can't help herself to laugh. Yeah.
Sad.
So.
And terrifying.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a very scary scene.
Yeah, the Joker's favorite method of killing people is with laughing gas.
Sure.
So.
But anyways, basically the climax of the scene is that Puppy Smiles becomes so infuriated that she goes into rager mode and basically just bashes the robot to pieces, destroys it.
With the Rock of Destiny.
Yes, the Rock of Destiny. Yeah, she picks up a stone in the middle of nowhere, and puts it into her inventory, and it says the Rock of Destiny.
Take from that what you will.
Yeah, I was going to say, I read that, and I was like, well, that must mean something to Chris. And then I mentioned it to you before we started the episode, and you're like, doesn't mean anything to me.
Now the closest I can find is the Stone of Scone, which has something to do with Scotland's royalty, but beyond that, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. And so moving on from here, she runs into the two red trotters, the unicorn and the earth pony that she had met before. And their interaction with her is very different now because the pony that she saved from the carnival was one of their sisters.
Yeah.
In fact, we're learning some of the structure of the tribes and the organizations of the Red Trotters. The Red Trotters that she meets at the gate basically say, like, they were trying to stop her from heading towards the carnival, but he responds saying, she's not blood, she's not a part of the Red Trotters. Why am I trying so hard?
Yeah.
Why would I care? And it kind of reflects what we saw earlier from Watcher. You can't constantly invest all of this emotion and energy in people because it's just so tenuous. Life is just such a thin strand out there, so easy to cut.
Look at or see infants in the medieval period as a reference point there.
Yeah.
Many mothers I know you hear about how they wouldn't actually form an emotional bond with a child until they were old enough to not die from any of the number of...
Well, I've told you the story of my grandfather. My grandfather was born in 1944 in a house without electricity. They know that he was greater than 10 pounds because they held him and held a 10-pound sack of flour, and he was heavier than it. But he had a big head, and he had such a big head, they thought he was hydrocephalic. And so they told his mom, don't get attached, he might not survive.
Yeah.
And then, of course, his joke is that, and she never did, which is not true. His mother adored him and doted on him. He hung the moon. But you're right. It wasn't that long ago that was still in the 40s that they were like, hey, he may not survive.
Yeah. But yeah, no, you definitely see that, and that would be expected in this kind of environment. But yes, moving on. They do explain that she actually did save the life of one of them's sister, and he actually starts tearing up.
Yeah. Shows some emotion. It's all he has in the world. She's all he has in the world.
Oh yeah, and that's something that they bring in that Fall Equestria talked about as well, is that the only ones you really have are, those people around you. It's the only thing you have. Everything else is rust and decay.
That's right. So anyways, he gives her a pass, a multi-pass essentially for the next location she needs to go to. She's got highlighted on her little map, the next Ministry of, Morale location to head to, and off she trots into the distance again. Now, I do think it's interesting that we get a little bit of a stats update, level up. And it's like, well, she's a monster. She doesn't really have levels. And then basically it's reinforced here, like, well, this is the trope that you have to do in a Fall at Equestria book. So it's like, all right, I guess she'll level up then. And then he says, quest perk added. Leveling is mandatory. Now you can gain levels. Yay. So that's the perk she receives.
She toss out there.
She kicks some robot ass.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting how Fall at Equestria and its side stories treat robots separately from the games. At least, I don't remember enough robot encounters in Fallout 1 and 2, but I feel like they were mostly the same way. Um, insofar that the robots and humans, or robots and living enemies and opponents, they were generally pretty equal. Like you'd find a Mr. Handy and a Raider, and they were pretty much the exact same thing. But in this setting, they definitely make the robots way more durable.
Sure.
Like, they aren't smart and by any means. Like, their intelligence and ability to engage with you as a target is limited in that regard. Yeah, I guess that's how it balances out. But they are far more durable and can deal out way more pain. Not accurate, not intelligent. So as soon as you go out of sight, they're pretty much dead on the spot. But aside from a few story pointed areas where they had to be. So
right. So yeah, all in all, moved the story forward here. I have a feeling we're going to have a lot more of encounters like this. I will tell you, having your main character be a Canterlot ghoul really affects the perception of danger. Whereas in Fallout Equestria, there was quite a bit of anxiety and apprehension. Like little Pip's not going to die per se because she's the protagonist, but others will. And as of yet, we haven't found a companion for Puppy Smiles. And I have a feeling she'll have a companion at some point.
The thing to take along with it as well is in this instance, you're seeing conflict as the point of tension. The conflict of life and death is the point of tension in all stories and in every single media that I can think of. It's about tension and release. And the tension doesn't have to come from the possibility of death. There's many ways to create tension. Mm-hmm. That's just kind of an easier method. But I mean, even the original story had a few different methods of creating tension that were, I mean, like, for example, one that comes right off the top of my head, Steelhooves going down into the basement of Tin Penny.
Yeah.
And a little bit like, oh no, what did you do? And he's like, oh no, I was just welding the door off so that none of the ghouls could ever come in here. And that wasn't a point of direct action or combat. It was just a tense moment. Of course, then you see the sheriff on the other side of the door. Good old psychopathic, murderous.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, cold bastard.
Why I love Steelhooves. There's great depth to his character, and there's development of his character.
Yeah.
And most of the characters in Fallout Equestria do a really good job of developing, of growing, of changing. If any of the core group doesn't, I'd say maybe Calamity, but
Velvet.
Well, I'd say Velvet changes a lot from beginning to end.
Yeah, she does. She becomes a annoying bitch to a
useful annoying bitch.
Yeah, I guess that's it. She's kind of because I mean, okay, so she becomes self-important in separate ways. I guess that's really the thing. Is she started out being self-important in that she was like self-messianic.
Yeah,
she thought of herself as the great healer who could tend to all wounds, and then as everything starts breaking down her psyche and her ego, and it starts getting to her, and she starts going insane. She gets the Fluttershy orb, learns about Fluttershy, and then it just starts. Then they open the doors where the Fluttershy was talking on the stage, and she just runs breakneck into the room.
Yeah. No, she like I said, she gets pretty down in the depths of darkness like Pip does.
Oh yeah.
No character goes through more than Pip does. But
I will agree with Last Place. That's kind of something that I was hinting on when it came to the tension and release that I didn't want to fully do. Didn't want to fully say because we're so early on. But yeah, it's the world around Puppy Smiles grows, and you see her effect on Chris.
You need to remember to read those out loud for the listeners at home.
Oh yeah, I do.
So, question was, Last Place says, in this story, it seems like the world around her grows instead of Puppy Smiles.
Yes, building on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't want to elucidate that too quickly because, again, we're still very early on. So,
Sure
and you
thing.
start realizing that. I started realizing that, when they're at the stadium.
Yeah. I mean, again, she's truly trapped in this mental state. It makes you question.
She is trapped in a million different ways. So she's kind of like within her own
and
cage
you realize
of sorts.
There's no real happy ending for this character.
Nah.
You know, like even, you know, in the world of worlds, let's say for some reason, somehow her mother's still alive in some form. At the end of the day, they both have to be ghouls that eventually will be driven insane.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that, you know, we kind of forget when we're talking about, Ditzy in Fallout Equestria.
Yeah.
It's like eventually she's going to lose her mind.
Stay back, Mama's poison.
Yeah, stay back, Mama's poison. Well, and it's amazing that she's able to become a glowing one and come back.
Yeah.
Like that's very unique.
Mm-hmm. It is a hard thing to do because even then I'm trying to remember in Fallout 2, I think there was a glowing one in the Poseidon reactor that actually wasn't feral. And then in New Vegas, there was the leader of the cult who was he was technically non-feral and glowing one, but he was leading a cult up into the sky, so he was not fully on it.
He was not right. Something wasn't right.
David Bright or something like that was his name. Yeah, he wasn't on it.
Yeah.
That's an important thing to take away from that.
It's an interesting series of missions there too.
Yeah, trying to convince the one guy that he is in fact not a ghoul, and he thinks that he is because his hair is falling out because he's balding.
Yeah. I mean, that's the nice thing about the Fallout universe is that for as much as it tries to base itself around science, there's a lot of basically mysticism and magic that goes on.
Well, it's
that there's no reason.
Apocalypse.
Right. There's no reason to explain it too. It's like, well, what makes somebody become a ghoul versus just dies? You know, how are they genetically structured that it allows them to become a ghoul? And it's like, you know,
why is it that you can get so much radiation, you never have to worry about the long-term effects? Because I mean, everybody would be having cancer like fucking mad.
Sure. Yeah, it's just it's a fantastical universe. I've had some people approach it and be like, "Oh, it's so unrealistic," and it's like, yeah, there's rad scorpions and there's these things called death claws that are mutated chameleons. I don't know about you, but I don't remember there being a ton of chameleons in North America at the time of the war.
I still like I know it wasn't never chameleons, but somewhere in the back of my mind, early on when playing Fallout 3, I thought they were cats. Like,
death claws.
Death claws were actually cats, just like regular house cats that over time through radiation had turned into this, and that's kind of the way they acted. And I was like, that works a lot better for me.
Yeah. Now, another thing we need to broach here, there's some questions in the text, and we've already talked about it a little bit. Are we worried about spoilers for Fallout Equestria at this point, or are we just going to assume anybody reading this has probably read Fallout Equestria?
Yeah, just go ahead with it. I mean, because at this point, we're limiting our options.
I just wanted to make certain. So if you are watching, we'll try and be good about it, but there's about to be some spoilers for Fallout Equestria. It doesn't ruin the story, but
you're watching before you watch the other one. Why?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like it's whatever. Well, in fairness, Chris, there are people who've read the New Testament who never read the Old Testament. So,
but the new one's better.
Last place says, almost like your mental health is a factor to keep from going feral, but could her being an element of harmony also play a factor, you think? That's something I think we've talked about before.
Yeah, I mean, she had a purpose that like ingrained itself into her mind, and that was the greatest anchor that kept her from going mad. Was that
now she's got a loved one too. You know, she's got an adopted daughter. Well, and a husband, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
Lionheart, right?
Yep.
Those characters that were introduced in the last 10th of the book. I'm always trying to make sure I'm getting their names right because we didn't interact with them much.
No, Lion and Mouse and K-Cat. Those, I think we've talked about that before. K-Cat regrets not having had those characters built up more.
Well, I mean, he just sounds like his introduction is hilarious and he's wildly interesting.
Yeah.
He's just a terrifying figure. The fact that he was a royal guard for Luna is just like, but I remember you telling me like, they're not regular ponies. There's
bat ponies.
Yeah. But like, they're not mutated. It's like, that's how they,
well, that one is technically mutated. There is some of it that's that, but they have the vertical slit eyes, the glaring fangs, the darker coats,
sure. But like they're of the moon, right?
Yeah. Well, 6'1", half dozen.
Yeah,
it doesn't really
other. Yeah. It's just
it was a visual effect on the show that just ended up coming into the book.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Okay. He says as a non My Little Pony fan, God. I feel like
world building can be interesting regardless of the world.
Sure. I feel like long term, this is like your Stockholm syndrome effect, that I've been held captive through so many hours of reading and podcasting that one day you'll just be like, hey, Robert, you realize that through just attrition, you're essentially a brony now,
Well, I mean, anyone who would see it would call you that anyway, but that's just because they're...
The problem is I know more than plenty of bronies now.
Congratulations.
No, I told Bree today we were getting home from church and I was like, by the way, I got pony stuff today. And she's like, you do realize that statement in any other context, like makes no sense. It's like super weird and makes no sense. And she's like, but because I know what you're doing and because I love you, I get it. Okay.
Oh, I see. That's how the way it is.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, just imagine saying to somebody in a vacuum, like, oh, sorry, I can't go out this afternoon. I have pony stuff. And it's like, oh, what? Oh, goodness gracious.
That's because you wouldn't, I mean.
Oh, I have a little bit of a cool announcement. I was just checking the stats the other day and our YouTube channel videos have over 13,000 views.
Yay.
Yep, it's at 13,001, and I was like, well, that's worth mentioning. So that's kind of exciting. It's not like any of them have done. What's really funny is that the videos that have the most views are like one-offs from years ago of playing Trine.
Yeah.
I think one of those Trine videos has like 934 views or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. I think I've told people I had a video on my channel that I was at work one night and I got this little bleep on my phone and this another little bleep and like three more rapidly. And I looked at it. I was like, congratulations on getting 10 views. Congratulations on getting 100 views. Congratulations on getting 1,000 views. Congratulations on getting 10,000 views. And it's like,
oh, that was one of your.
All I did was just take a footage recording of a website and uploaded it. And what happened was, I guess it was some science blog or some popular influencer account on VK picked it up and posted it. And so I had all these Russians watching the video. Yeah,
no, I remember you mentioned that. You have a weird group of Russian fans. Although, in this climate, having Russian fans is a dangerous thing, my friend.
No, you're talking about Fallout Equestria. That's like half of the fan base is Russian. So
I'm just saying, I don't think you got those views realistically. I think you stole those views.
Spasiba.
With Russian help. I would like to say one last thing, if I could, for a moment, and shill for the channel. It's coming up on that time of the year where we're renewing stuff and starting things off in the new year. And we just wanted to ask all of you out there who like and support the show, if you would like to continue to support the show, please tell your friends and family, anybody who you think might like us or like the channel. But also, we would love it if you could help us out on our Patreon to help us pay for the server and help us pay for the video editing software and those suites that we use. Basically, the podcast itself, server-wise, is $15 a month, and then the software and other expenses amount to about $20. So really, the show doesn't cost us much. It's like $35 a month. But if everybody could toss in, $1 or $2 here or there, we would certainly greatly appreciate it.
Yeah. For pennies a day, you could stop people like Robert from dying of malaria and
Well,
starvation.
all that money does get drawn out of my account. Although I will say, Chris, of all the people involved in our little channel, you are always Johnny on the spot with paying your dues, which I greatly appreciate because of baby money.
Oh yes, baby money.
The diaper monies.
Anyway, we got to get. Hate to cut it off.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not going to be going live with today's D&D session, but it will be up in the next probably 24 to 48 hours.
Because everybody's already online. So,
and that's a plug for our other show. So our little Foally of Man group here does a Fallout Equestria tabletop that we do once a week.
Anyway, we have to hurry because we're already late. I am Chris. With me here today,
Robert.
Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time
on the Foally of Man. Bye.